In December of 1961, my fourth grade teacher felt that it would be appropriate for our class to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. She gave us each a line to read, a quote from a famous person, FDR, Winston Churchill, Eleanor Roosevelt. To some of the 9-year-olds in the class, though, 20 years felt like an awfully long time. We might as well have been talking about the Civil War or the Revolution. Miss Conrad, the teacher, though, picked up on that, and she very gently and very poignantly explained to us what it was like on that day that we all thought was so long ago. She said that even children, even fourth graders, such as herself at the time, knew that the world had changed forever. She also said it still felt like yesterday to her. Well, today, we can all relate. All of us who were alive and aware on September 11th. It feels like yesterday, and of course we all know the world changed forever. This morning we're on the Common for 3 purposes. The first is to simply mark the date so that we never forget. The second is to remember those nearly 3,000 people who lost their lives on that day, and the tens of thousands of relatives and friends, many of them right from here or right from our neighboring communities. And the third is to recommit to our admiration and our gratitude for the first responders, people who run into the danger to help when the natural inclination is to run the other way. Firefighters and police, not just from New York City or DC, but from the neighboring departments who were right there with them, or the people from the cities and towns a little farther out who took their turns at the front line or filled in for those who did. And the cities and towns beyond that, who in turn filled in for them, and so forth. The same is true for the medical world, EMTs and ambulance drivers, nurses and doctors. In some cases, private citizens who were on hand to lend a hand. That feeling of mutual aid, so to speak, rippled across the country until all were affected. They were truly the light on that terrible, dark day. On behalf of the town of Reading, 2 decades later, we again offer our simple but heartfelt thank you. In just a minute, you'll hear more music from our community groups on this day of community, poetry and prose from our schools, and a dance presentation. Before we do that, though, right now I'd like to ask if you would all join me in a moment of silence for those lost on September 11th. Thank you very much. And now I ask all those who are able to please rise for the singing of the national anthem by the Reading Community Singers.
Good afternoon. I'm State Senator Jason Lewis. Thank you very much for being here today as together we commemorate the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks on our nation. Today, we remember the almost 3,000 victims of these heinous attacks. We comfort their still grieving families, loved ones, and friends. And we express our profound gratitude to our first responders, police officers, firefighters, EMTs, to our service members, veterans, and their families for their heroism on that fateful day, and for their courage and countless sacrifices in the 20 years since to keep us all safe. Earlier this year, the Reading Rotary Club, the Fall Street Fair, and the Porch Fest committees joined together to run a student writing contest with the theme, Light in the Darkness. I'm very privileged today to introduce our first student keynote speaker. Abigail Lebovich is a junior at Reading High School. She will be sharing a poem that examines the parallels between the 9/11 attacks and the current COVID-19 pandemic. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Abigail as she recites her poem, 300 Million Candles.
$300 million candles. Parallels between 9/11 and COVID-19. At first there was darkness, panic, confusion. We stayed glued to our TVs and radios, hoping for information. Were we safe? Our friends and family? Heroes pressed through the darkness like flashlights leading the way. First responders and essential workers risking their own lives to guide survivors back to light. From fires, from rubble, from overflowing hospitals. We all spread light through acts that remind us that life is not normal. Every time we go through security or put on a mask, when we go out of our way to make sure this never happens again. When we share out the light through service and selflessness. When our response to senseless tragedy is purposeful kindness. When we acknowledge the pain and unfair loss and do everything we can to help each other through it. Shadows spread as prejudice against Muslim Americans and Asian Americans, feeding shadows that were already there, until we come together, raising candles, making sure that the light reaches everyone. Life will never again be the same. Absences surround us, spaces that should be filled. The mindsets of generations have been irreversibly altered, and the after effects will be felt for decades to come. It is not so simple as pressing play on a paused life. There is no more normal to return to. We each hold the candle. Sharing it with another only doubles the light. When we lift each other up, hold each other's hands, combine the heat of our flames, we learn to forge joy and comfort using the fire of community. Through the combined flicker of our 300 million candles, as we hold them up against darkness like we've never seen before, America builds a tribute in light.
Reading community singers have been performing choral music in town now for more than a century. Today they join us, conducted by Artistic Director Beth Mosier, accompanied on piano by Joseph Beninati, and featuring Linda Lydecker on flute. Let There Be Peace on Earth, arranged in part by Joe Bick.
Good morning, and thank you to all of you for coming here today on this very, very special day. I'm State Representative Brad Jones, and it's my privilege to be here today with you to honor and remember the victims of the 9/11 attacks. I'm thrilled to introduce our second student keynote speaker. Clara Healy is an 8th grade student at Parker Middle School. She's going to share an essay she wrote that reminds us all how we can come together and provide hope for each other during difficult times. Please welcome Clara to the podium to share her essay, A Sky Full of Stars.
Darkness can fall upon us at any time. It can be frightening and almost always unwelcomed. However, the darkest nights are the best times to see the stars. What if we all shifted our perspective to see those tiny beams instead of focusing on the overwhelming blackness? Notice the kindness, courage, and togetherness brightening our lives. It will never completely consume the darkness, but it can give us hope and help us create a better future. Kindness is not only finding the stars in your life, but being one for someone else. That goat yoga video that made you laugh, it would be so much funnier if your siblings saw it too. If you brighten their day, they can spread that light to others, and eventually, the whole world is illuminated. You can make a difference in the lives of other people, and that starts with finding your spark. During the pandemic, my friend's passion for sewing turned into creating colorful masks for healthcare workers. Kind acts let the recipient know that they are seen. For me, it also reminds me that I am worth it. It helps me know that I can't give up, because there are people cheering me on. Whenever the darkness is settling in, know this: I am cheering you on. I see you. If we all went out right now and did one kind thing for someone else, it would be a movement so powerful the light would fill the sky. Darkness not only stokes our spirit of kindness, it also inspires acts of incredible courage. On that fateful day of September 11, 2001, people ran to each other's aid, helping each other down smoky stairwells. Police and firefighters rushed into burning, crumbling buildings, and in the days that followed, dug through massive piles of rubble, searching for survivors. At the Boston Marathon bombings, fans and runners leapt to action, comforting each other and carrying wounded people from the finish line to first responders. And today, healthcare workers on the front lines working tirelessly to treat those sick or dying of COVID. All of these people were willing to risk their lives to help save others. They found the light inside themselves, the bravery and persistence for the good of others. Before the pandemic, the only lawn signs I ever saw were political. But throughout the first few months of COVID, I watched those signs get tossed into garages. They were slowly replaced with messages like, "We're all in this together. We can do hard things." And simply, "Thank you." To me, this shift representing put away our differences and recognizing that we are all facing the same struggle. This pandemic, the Boston Marathon bombings, and 9/11, while all tragic, helped us unite as a community and as a country. Togetherness, unity, doesn't have to fade with the painful event that triggered it. We will all have moments in our lives where we need each other. Let's hold on to our kinship for those moments and every second in between. We are all linked, and we can use that connection to forge a better community. During quarantine, the world slowed down. We felt that pause in our lives, and it gave us time to think about who we are. It hit us all that life is so short. How are we going to live it? A lot of people took this time to change careers, pursue a passion, get a new degree, or just do something that makes them happy, that makes them want to keep going. After the pandemic, many of us have a new perspective on life. We will be different than we were before, and that's okay. I know we can emerge from this darkness as a stronger community of better people. While we will never forget the heartbreak and loss that accompanies dark times, we can choose to remember the light. The bright sparks of kindness, courage, and unity. the beauty that comes out of people when they face challenges together. A sky full of stars.
As you arrived here today, you were enjoying music played by the Reading Community Concert Band, which has been giving concerts now for more than 25 years. Today, under the leadership of music director Stephen Bloom. And now, America the Beautiful, by the music by Samuel A. Ward, arranged by Carmen Dragon.
Hello, I'm State Representative Rich Haggerty, and it's a pleasure for me to be here today with all of you. Pleasure to be here with our first responders. It's a real honor and a privilege. I'm honored to introduce our last keynote student speaker of the day, Addie Hillary. Addie is a third grader at the Barrows Elementary School. I'm sure you'll be impressed by the poem she wrote at only 8 years old. I'd like to invite Addie up here to share her poem, Hope.
Hi, I'm Addie's mom, and I'm going to read her poem for her. This is called Hope. Hope, a light glowing in the darkness, deep in the ocean, ready to resurface, breaking the waves of fear, a star on a cloudy night, pushing away fog, the song of a bird, an angel, a form of God, a flower in winter blooming, the sun shining at daybreak, the gallop of a horse roaming free, something to never give up on, something to give, something to feel, something to love, hope.
Our final performance of the day is from the Encore Dance Academy, which is located right here in Reading. Encore has a competitive dance program of more than 85 members who have been named national champions for the last 3 years. Today's group of dancers is the Starlight team, made up of dancers aged 11 through 14. This lyrical piece was choreographed by Lisa Powers. From Encore Dance Academy, The Light That Never Fails.
When the cold bites your bones and gets in your heart, it can make you feel hopeless, and fear will come to steal your sun and make it dark. But don't believe you're lonely. We've all had that moment when our shoulders sink and we sit back and think we could just run. But we're not born to chase the pretty light. We're not born to fall and lose the fight. Never let him go. I'm asking you to lift me higher than I ever been. Hold your breath and say you're gonna come with me. We were born to follow the light will never fail. Come along, say and say, never love you back again. We're not born to chase the fading light. We're not born to fall and lose the fight. Never let him go. Oh no. Oh, I'm asking you to lift me higher than I ever been. Hold your breath and say you're gonna come with me. We were born to follow the light that never fails. The light that never fails. We were born to follow the light that never the light that never
So we know that today is a commemoration of 9/11 and the courage it took. Well, we know we have 3 young students here, and it took courage for them to come up and speak in front of all of you today. So we have a little recognition from the House of Representatives for each one of our students, for Abigail and Addie and Clara, and it's simply recognition of their participation as a keynote speaker in the Light in the Darkness commemoration ceremony of the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And in addition, and then, on behalf of the 3 of us, we got each one of them a challenge coin for the 20th anniversary so that they can remember that they played an important part in today's ceremony. And we appreciate them taking the time to participate in the contest and the courage to come up here and present their poems and their writing. And we want to thank all of you and each of them for being here today to make this a special remembrance ceremony.
This concludes our program. Thank you everyone for attending, and also for everyone who made this happen. The organizers, the Reading Porch Fest Committee, the Reading Rotary, and Gene Borowski. Our sponsors, Brian Tobin of Guaranteed Rate, and the Reading Fall Street Fair Committee. A reminder, the Fall Street Fair starts right here in 24 hours, right in the square. Thanks also to everyone else taking part today. Addie, Clara, and Abigail for their inspirational words, their writing. Senator Lewis and Representative Haggerty and Representative Jones. The Flower Shop of Eric's for our decorations. The Reading Community Singers. The Reading Community Concert Band. Encore Dance Academy. Town and school officials. The DPW. And of course, the fire and police departments and the Honor Guard. I now invite you all to join together as community again for music and storytelling all over town, all afternoon, as Reading Porch Fest 2021 returns to the porches right now.